The topic that I chose to cover for my idea worth spreading is the push for more effective sexual education for American teens and preteens. The programs that are presented in most schools across the country are, at this point in our society, either outdated or just in denial. We live in a world where about 1 million teen girls in the United States alone get pregnant. Nearly 4 out of 10 females get pregnant at least once before they turn 20. Nearly 16% of teens at age 15 have had sex. A third of those have had sex by the age of 16, and nearly half have had sex by the age of 17. That is a lot of teenagers having sex. The U.S. has the highest rate of teen pregnancy, birth, and abortion in the industrialized world. There are nearly double the rates in Canada, 4 times the rates in France and Germany, and more than 8 times the rates in Japan. You're probably asking yourself, how can American teens be just so careless about all this, and how are these rates so high? Only 2 types of sex education are taught in American schools. There's Abstinence Plus, and there's Abstinence Only. The Abstinence Plus program covers abstinence as a positive choice, but students are also taught about contraception and the avoidance of STDs while being sexually active. The Abstinence Only program tells students that they should be sexually abstinent until marriage and provides no information about contraception. While the Abstinence Plus program is a step in the right direction of informing teenagers about sexual education, only about 58% of secondary schools actually use these type of programs. Now let's look at the Abstinence Only program. How can a program so obviously dated and out of touch with modern teenagers still be an actively used program to try and teach teenagers how to have safe sex? They are essentially denying that teenagers have sex, and instead of just acknowledging it and teaching them how to be safe, if they actually do engage in sexual intercourse, they're leaving these students with little to none actual information, which leads to uneducated sex, which could lead to teen pregnancies or the spread of STDs. What's even more amazing is that neither of these programs cover things like birth control, infection prevention, sexual orientation, sexual abuse, or abortions. This leads to findings like 31% of girls saying they were completely unprotected the last time they had sex, and about 1/3 of teens that actually use contraception during sex use it infrequently or not all the time. Nearly half of the 19 million new STDs every year in the U.S. are among people that are between 15 to 24. Our American culture has us wired so that we often cringe at the thought of these topics being taught to children and teenagers and in schools. But it's time that we embrace reality and understand that just because it makes us uncomfortable, these things need to be taught to our children and teenagers so that they can be informed and make better decisions when it comes to sex. I believe that we need to come up with a nationally approved and agreed upon sexual education program that is equally taught across the country, so that every single American student is getting the same information, rather than some being more prepared and informed than others. I also believe that the topics I mentioned above should be included in this program. Teenagers should be taught that abstinence is the best and only way to not get pregnant or contract a sexually transmitted disease. But they should also be taught about condoms, birth control, and what constitutes sexual harassment. Condoms should be a no-brainer. They are an effective and easy form of contraception that every teenager should know what they are, how they work, and how to use them. Females should also be aware of condoms so that they can assure that their partner is using it correctly. Birth control should also be covered because females should be aware that there is medication that can actually prevent them from becoming pregnant that is less risky and more effective than any other form of contraception. I also believe that the signs of sexual harassment and abuses should be taught so that teens know what to look for should they feel uncomfortable in their sexual relations, and so that they can hopefully protect themselves from such attacks. I feel that these changes would lead to a more educated teenage population, thus hopefully leading to a population that is less likely to go to their prom pregnant or with an STD. As a country, we need to just face the facts. Teenagers are going to have sex, whether we like it or not, and whether we acknowledge it or not. The only thing we can do is provide them with the information needed so that when they are having sex, we can acknowledge it and we can teach them how to do it safely.